Hello everyone, Dennis Chang here. Welcome to another video. So today I want to talk to you about playing melodically and my thoughts on how to learn to play melodically. So if you liked what I played in the beginning, then stick around. And if you think what I played in the beginning wasn't very melodic, fair enough. I guess you'll have to find your information elsewhere. And you may have noticed that I played that intro solo with my thumb. Why is that? Because I couldn't find a pick. Simple as that. Now before we start, please like, comment, subscribe, click the bell notification. If you want to support me, maybe you can buy something on SoundSlice. I have courses on Gypsy Jazz, on bebop, harmony, or you can buy something from DC Music School, or if you can also buy something from Bandcamp. Anyway, whatever you can do will help. So thank you so much. So playing melodically, it's something that I've been thinking about fairly recently because I've been watching a lot of players play and I noticed some interesting things. A lot of players are working on really cool licks, and licks are very cool. Licks are very cool. But I think playing with feeling is more important. But I was going to say, yeah, they're playing these great licks. But then when it's time to play ballads, or even in the context of a swing song or bossa nova or whatever, when they're trying to play quote-unquote melodically, something falls short. And it's not that what they're playing is quote-unquote theoretically incorrect. Often it is correct. And this is very interesting. Of course, this is very subjective. This is only my opinion. But I feel that it falls short, yet they're playing correctly, which to me indicates that the theory is taking over and not the ears. So they know which notes to play, so it's not going to be quote-unquote wrong. But at least to my ears, it doesn't really sound very melodic. Or it sounds too much like, oh, I'm gonna play this because I know it works. Whereas when you play what you hear, and then you can hear something really worth playing, it is incredibly beautiful. Of course, here we're talking about gypsy jazz, but this applies to all styles of jazz, in my opinion. I'm only using gypsy jazz as a vehicle for my video here, because everything I learned about melody, well, not everything, but a huge chunk of that came from Django Reinhardt. But not just Django Reinhardt, but a lot of my favorite gypsy jazz musicians like Dorado Schmidt, Kanye West, a lot of players from the east of France. I remember there's this album that I discovered a long time ago by Yorgi Loeffler. I should probably write down the name. Yorgui, last name Loeffler, Yorgi Loeffler, as they say in French. He's actually one of the first artists that I recorded on DC Music School. And he had this album that came out when I think he was like 19 or 20 years old. And I was just floored by how musical it was. He's known as a virtuoso shredder, but when he wants, he can play some of those beautiful melodies. And I remember on that I don't know if it was minor, but on that album, there were certain phrases that he played that were so beautiful. Let's say on an A minor chord. From A minor to D minor, these little bends. So those were things that had a profound effect on me. And also Dorado Schmidt, as I think I mentioned him, and there are others as well. And even gypsies, when they play bebop, there are some gypsies who don't play gypsy jazz, but they play bebop. They have this melodic quality to their playing. Birelli is an example of this. When you hear him play like bebop, okay, he does some cool shreddy bebop lines, but sometimes there are these very beautiful melodies that come out, and this is something I got from gypsy musicians. And so that's what I want to talk about in this lesson. Not just gypsy jazz, but just like how I learned these things. Like I said, there are these players that work on all these cool licks, but fall short when it comes to playing simple melodies, beautiful melodies. And I think the main culprit is the fact that they worked a lot on these long phrases, and a lot of these players tend not to know any melody to songs. And this, I think, one of the places where it can start. Just the ability to play the melodies to a whole bunch of tunes, and preferably by ear. What I mean is, you listen to the tune so many times without the guitar in your hands, so many times to the point that you hear the melody in your head. So if you have to play like "There Will Never Be Another You," you can already hear. Or, you know, or maybe so finding all these old standards, all these beautiful melodies. Doesn't have to be jazz, but it can be anything. Even classical melodies. Many of you have probably heard this. I don't know. That's where my memory falls short. But I'm doing all these melodies by ear, by recollection, by memory. So that's what I mean. If this is a little bit too advanced for you, then just get yourself like a fake book and start reading, memorizing a few melodies. But when you do this, what's very important is to hear the melodies in your ears, but also to hear or be able to imagine the chords behind them as you do them. So if I was doing that Stardust, right? And learning these melodies, well, it's gonna do something to your brain. It's gonna get you to think a little bit more melodically, and the fact that you can reproduce them on your instrument, both the melody and the harmonies, shows that you understand how the melodies are relating to the harmonies. So this is a very, very big thing. Another big thing I would say is to listen to improvisers playing over ballads, and especially improvisers who play short and simple melodies. It doesn't have to be ballads. It can be also like up-tempo swing music. Like if you listen to Django Reinhardt, a lot of his solos are based on melodies. That's that. I'm doing this again by ear because I listened to it so many times. I've actually never learned that solo. Or okay, this one I've learned. So this is what I would call a practical ear training exercise, and far more useful than just like getting an app and guessing intervals. Here you're working on music, and you're training your ears to understand harmony and melody. So like you kill 3 birds with 1 stone. So right off the bat, try to see how many melodies you can play. Not only how many can you play, but how many can you play well. Make it expressive, not make it sound like a robot, you know. I like. So that's one of the most obvious things you can do. Then the next thing you can do is to do as much research as you can on voice leading. So what you're gonna do, you're gonna start listening to good musicians with good voice leading. I know this is subjective, but maybe you go on DC Music School and you check out some musicians. Actually, Angelo DeBar is very good at that. And when you look at voice leading, you want to see how they connect the chords. Now, voice leading is the art of connecting melodies as you go from chord to chord in as smooth a way as possible. There can be a very loose definition to that, where the voice leading can go in so many different ways, but there's also a strict classical definition. And I tend to think that the strict classical definition is a good one, not because it's from classical music, because it's something that is still used today. Some people even know it's subconsciously, like Django Reinhardt. A lot of Gypsy musicians, actually, they have this strict classical voice leading in their ears because they listen to a lot of simple music. If you listen to a lot of classical music, you're bound to get it in your ear. Already, this is like great voice leading. Beautiful. These Bach things. I remember how it goes. Or Fritz Kreisler. That's what Liebesfreud, Fritz Kreisler, Mendelssohn. So there's a lot to learn from classical music if you're into that, which I am. So actually, outside of jazz, I got so much from classical music when it comes to learning to play quote unquote melodically. I learned a lot about traditional voice leading from that, and it helped develop my ears to hear such things, to hear tendency notes where they want to resolve, where such certain chords want to go. And it goes beyond the theory. Like I study theory because I listen to so much music, and I actually figured out the music by ear. I know by instinct where certain notes want to go, and I hear them. Well, what else can I say other than the fact that Gypsy musicians were a huge influence on me, and even those who play more like electric guitar, like I suggest you check out Rocky Gresset. He's on my DC Music School website, and okay, he does a lot of shred patterns, but when he plays slow, it's just so beautiful because he has naturally absorbed a lot of quote unquote simple music. Well, he grew up playing church music, and church music tends to be, generally harmonically and melodically accessible. For example, this one, I thank you, Lord, for the trials that come my way. A lot of Gypsy musicians in Western Europe, they come from this background playing this kind of music, before they even learn to play jazz. And it's just in the well, it's also the same in African American churches. There are a lot of these black musicians who play, in my opinion, so melodically because they also grew up in a gospel environment playing these quote unquote relatively simple songs with relatively simple harmonies and melodies, but it has a very profound effect when you play these simple songs for like most of your childhood. You subconsciously absorb all these beautiful melodies and beautiful harmonies, and when you start to play jazz, when you start playing jazz, it rubs off somewhere. This is an aspect of improvisation where, of course, knowing theory can obviously help to organize ideas, to be able to say, okay, this is from this scale, this is from this arpeggio, this is a chromatic passing tone, blah blah blah. But this is something also that goes far beyond theory. It's something that you have to feel, that you have to hear in your head. A lot of traditional music or religious music from different cultures doesn't have to be like gospel or anything. According to Duvet, I'm Jewish, so you can be playing like. Yerushalayim shel Zachav. This basically means beyond these simple guidelines, and by the way, if you have your own tips, please share them in the comments. I'm kind of improvising this video. I don't have any notes or anything, so I may be rambling more than I usually do. But what I meant to say is that this is, unfortunately, there are no shortcuts. You're going to have to actually do the work because it is all about having the music come from within, from here and here. From here. And it can also come from pop music. So you can see the harmonies and the melodies. I think it's a lot of fun doing this kind of work, and it's actually quite relaxing, but it's something that I've actually been doing for the longest time, not as part of my practice routine, but just, I just have the guitar in my hands and just think of different songs from that I've heard in the past and just try it out. And as you do this work, you gradually get better and better at it until it's almost second nature. So that, in my opinion, is one of the secrets to being able to play melodically. What do you think? Please like, subscribe, share, blah blah blah. Thank you.